In this video lecture, Reverend Dr. Dickie Joe Mullen will explore the effects of Mercury in your horoscope, considering both the natal and progressed chart.
This is astrologer Dickie Joe Mullen in Orlando, Florida, with thoughts about the planet Mercury in your horoscope to share. With all of the exotic discoveries in outer space, we can all think about Chiron and the moons around Pluto and everything else, and forget the planets that are familiar, that are closest to us. And one star that we can see almost always in the heavens is the planet Mercury. And one of the cosmic placements that the early astrologers, going back 5,000 years or more, would look at. Different placements in the birth chart relate to different times in one's life, and the planet Mercury has a special tie with ages 7 to 14. Thinking about mythology, the tales about the gods and the goddesses were really all about astrology. And in astrology, Mercury represents the mind, intellect, communication, intelligence levels and intellectual aptitudes, and education. All of those very important topics. Say if someone is terrible at math, but very good at gardening. We all have our own special intelligences, aptitudes, abilities, and understanding that, Mercury holds the key to that. The most important school years, and when the mind absorbs the most information, most educators believe would be ages 7 to 14. Years ago, an 8th grade education was the norm, and many people did very well with that. IQ tests usually score at age 14, the maximum. That's scary, isn't it? As bright as anyone is ever going to be, it's usually age 14. I hope there are exceptions to that. At any rate, the growth of the mind and the intellect, look at Mercury in your birth chart in order to understand what you should study, what you should do with your thoughts. Let's go through the different signs of Mercury and look to see what we can do to understand our minds and to use the aptitudes the best. Now, Mercury can only be 28 degrees from the sun, and so it's either in the same sign as your own natal sun or the one before or after. For example, if you're a Libra, your Mercury can only be in either Virgo, Libra, or Scorpio. So if you don't have access to an astrologer, just by thinking about your own mind, your own thought processes, educational aptitudes, very good chance you could guess your natal Mercury. But your astrologer, or just a quick glance at some of the free astrology programs out there on the internet, can give you your Mercury sign. If Mercury is in Aries in your birth chart, you want to be physically active. It's good for you to get involved with grassroots enterprises. And those who don't mind starting over again, who have a pioneer spirit, will have Mercury in Aries. And there tends to be a very competitive mind. People who thrive on argument will often have Mercury in Aries. They like a mental challenge. Taurus, anything that's a surprise or upset in the status quo can be a little bit difficult. The Taurus Mercury is very deliberate, slow, a good intellect, but it likes to move at its own rate. And there is a very practical mindset, not just learning in an abstract way, but hands-on learning. A lot of gardeners, people who are also good with finance and business, will have Mercury in Taurus. Those born with Mercury in Gemini are very fortunate because that's Mercury's ruling sign, one of them. And Mercury in Gemini shows a very quick, alert mind, an aptitude for languages, and ability to multitask and jump from subject to subject. Mercury in Cancer, In the Guinness Book of World Records, the person who was called the Human Encyclopedia, who could remember almost everything, was born with Mercury in Cancer. It's a very retentive mind, like an elephant. Mercury in Cancer never forgets. However, learning with Mercury in Cancer is really tied to emotion. Suppose someone has an emotional trauma with the fifth grade teacher, just an absolutely hateful witch of a teacher, negative witch of a teacher, someone who is just awful, and you just can't learn anything in that very important grade because of a mental block. I had a friend who had a mental block against learning to drive, and it had to do with an afflicted Mercury in his horoscope. Very nice person, but just unlike most people who can't wait to get a driver's license, just didn't want to learn to drive, and he had Mercury in Cancer. So keeping the emotional attitude open is really significant. And then Mercury in Cancer can be very good with a mental attitude that's good. A lot of emotion into words and communication. A lot of super salesmen too, because Mercury in Cancer puts so much feeling into communication. It does well. Mercury in Leo is the clown or the actor, warm feelings and colorful, dramatic thoughts and ideas come across. Also a very young attitude and keeping up with the latest slang and ideas. Mercury in Virgo, that's another one of Mercury's ruling signs, is extremely good. Mercury in Virgo is detailed, very focused on health, very good skills with grammar, conversation, also language skills, foreign languages, and an aptitude for a big vocabulary. Mercury in Virgo will have that. Also, this is good for practical analysis, research, and anything to do with business. Mercury in Libra is interested in everybody else's opinions, vacillates. Hard to have Mercury in Libra in some ways because you think and think and think, make the right decision, and then kaboom, do an about face. The reason is wanting to do everything that's right. There's a lot of interest in justice, the other side of the view, other people's viewpoints. Your partner's business or personal relationship needs are there. Mercury in Libra can be very poetic and artistic, though. Remember, Libra's the Venus-ruled sign, so combining Mercury with that is beautiful words, pleasant speech. They hardly will tell anyone where to go without being like the Irish and making it look like they look forward to the trip. If you've ever heard that phrase, tell someone they're going to the devil so they look forward to the trip. Phrase from Ireland, my family history. Mercury in Libra can do that no matter what their cultural heritage is. Mercury in Scorpio, you don't know what they're thinking. Very deep and secretive. Most people with Mercury in Scorpio aren't too talkative. Get them talking, listen to what they say, even lightly or casually, and there can be hidden messages going on. Mercury in Scorpio is very good for research work, forensics, crime analysis, anthropology, seeking and discovering different things. If you're roaming your favorite antique shop and want to find a vintage teapot for a good price, take along a Mercury and Scorpio friend. They'll walk to it right away. Very intuitive and psychic position from Mercury. Mercury in Sagittarius is in its sign of detriment. I found there can be a very good mind, but people are very sarcastic. And they don't realize it. They'll say nasty things without even thinking about it and say, why did you hang up on me when I just talked to you tomorrow? They don't get it. They're kind of oblivious. Mercury in Sagittarius is curious about the greater world. They look at the whole forest, but they can miss each individual pine needle. Mercury in Sagittarius is very interested in higher learning, but they often don't complete programs of higher education, or it takes them longer and they go from campus to campus. But a lot of good journalists, writers, and teachers do have Mercury in that sign, depending on the other aspects. Mercury in Capricorn. You know, Mercury in Capricorn gets very bad press, but I think it doesn't deserve it. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and Mercury and Saturn have a lot in common. They're intellectual, logical, organized. Some of the brightest people I've ever met that just amaze me have Mercury in Capricorn. They go slowly, but they go into things in depth. They organize well, use time well, very reliable employees, and very solid knowledge. You don't have to go back and mind their P's and Q's or double check things. With Mercury in Capricorn, they've already done that. Mercury in Capricorn will be good gardeners. They understand the earth, land, and nature, and also will be good with business, except they worry about being broke all of the time, but they will be good with financial management. Mercury in Aquarius is in its sign of exaltation. This is traditionally the very best sign for Mercury because it represents the very quick Uranian quality of grasping things quickly and moving forward. Mercury in Aquarius is excellent with the newest technologies, very inventive. Some of the really great traditional inventors of earlier times, Thomas Edison and so forth, would have had Mercury in Aquarius. And it's a very fast, quick, intellectual thing, very alert, observant, picks up everything around before most of us know what hit us with that position combining the Uranian and Mercury quality. Mercury in Pisces, this is also in its detriment. Mercury in Pisces is like having a retrograde Mercury all of the time. It's very psychic, imaginative, intuitive, dreamy, but many people who space out, go into trance, will have Mercury in Pisces. If the whole chart is negative as a whole, Mercury in Pisces can be common. I have found in horoscopes that have mental illness in them, schizophrenia and other maladies. If you have Mercury in Pisces, music will help, creative work, concentrating. Being near the water or the ocean can be very healing for some people mentally because the crystals in the seawater are very much like human blood. And Mercury in Pisces kind of needs some help to bring out the brightest and the best of the intellect. Now, they'll take the roundabout route and get there if the horoscope as a whole is a good one, but the mind is just very different. And many people who have learning disabilities and then overcome them will have Mercury in Pisces. This is Dickie Jo Mullen in Orlando, Florida, sending you good thoughts. And remember to look at Mercury in the evening sky and connect with it, because that's what the ancients did. And sometimes physically looking at the heavens can be a good idea.